Hi, everyone. This is Danielle. I am here to talk about Module 4, and I'm going to go ahead, as usual, and share my screen. And as you can see, per usual, I'm starting with the Module 4 overview, which I've got pulled up in front of me. And I want to go ahead and talk just a little bit about transitioning from Module 3 to Module 4. So last week in Module 3, we were focusing on kind of the protests. We were looking at Outcast and Jonathan Tennis, and then you had the short essay looking at protest music. So this week we are taking a turn in terms of looking at something new. So a new perspective in terms of the war, the Iraq War. So Module 4 is called Known Unknowns. This is a Rumsfeld quotation, which is the name of a few modules from here on out: rendition, torture, and memoir. So that is named for the particular hard copy text that we'll be reading this week, which is Eric Fair's, if you can kind of see that through my blurred background, Eric Fair's Consequence, a memoir. This is the length of it. And so, like I said in the title, it's a memoir, and he was a private contractor who went over and worked as an interrogator at Abu Ghraib, and also was in Fallujah as an interrogator, and had some other experiences. So it's a bit of an intense read. So, and he talks a lot about other things as well. So I know I gave a heads up on the reading for this week because it is the longest text that we have in this class, and we are reading it all in 1 week. And so I wanted to give that heads up to say, hey, once you're done with Module 3 work, whenever you have the first opportunity, get started on reading this, because I just want to make sure that you pace yourself, that you don't rush yourself through the text, because when it comes to, like looking for quotations or looking for evidence, that you're not getting yourself stuck, because as you read, you want to, grab quotations, mark pages, do those kind of active reading strategies that hopefully everybody's in the habit of doing. And also be aware that, as I've also noted in that heads up, that the discussions, the two yellow discussions are divided into, actually, let's just talk about those now really quick. For Module 4, I can't figure out the verb. They're divided into, so one discussion is on chapters 1 through 5, and then the second one is on the rest of the memoir, chapters 6 through 13. So you kind of want to get up through chapter 5 and then make sure you have like a little bit of an understanding of like where that chapter ends. I think, I don't have it anymore, but I had a dividing marker of where, this is chapter 5, and then, to divide where that happens. So I know this is 1 through 5 and this is 6 through 13. So those weren't overlapping for me in terms of what happens in 1 through 5 and what happens in 6 through 13. And I believe, if I remember correctly, these are all, in both of those discussions for Yellow Dig, they're both multi-prompt. So this is just another reminder to Just be careful how, you tag your yellow dig posts. This is question A, target and confront, B, condemn, or C, reject. So those just match whichever question you're doing. So what I would recommend doing is read chapter 1 through 5 and then do the yellow dig discussion, then finish the memoir, and then do the yellow dig discussion. That would be my recommendation, just because I think it would make it easier. But if you want to read the whole memoir and then do both discussions, I mean, obviously you can do that as well. But it makes sense to me to like read half, take a little bit of a reading break, get that writing done that's specific to that reading, and then read the rest of the text, and then do the work that's related to that reading, rather than do all the reading and then do 2 assignments that are about 2 separate bits of the text, which might be a little like trying to ask the brain to do a little bit too much. And yeah, this one is also multi-prompt. So again, there's those 3 yellow dig tags there. So those are the 2 discussions for this week. That's all the assignments there are this week, because just kidding. There's also a blog this week. There is a blog also. So remember, there's 4 blogs, the Considering Ethics blog. So the 2 yellow digs, and then there's the blog, the Real World Consequences of FAIR's Narrative. So you have some prompt questions. The blogs are always the same number of words. They're always 400 words. The last one was a 2-part blog, if you remember from module 1. This one is not a 2-part blog. This one is just kind of a 1-part. It's just gives you this kind of overview, or this is what you want to do in the blog itself. So and I would do this the very end, so save this for the very, very last thing that you do, because you want to have the full text read, and so you don't want to like read the first half and then do the blog. So you want to read the full thing, read the full memoir, and then you could do the blog after that point. Otherwise it you wouldn't be able to provide as much analysis as what I would be looking for, as you would if you say just read half the book. So in terms of what we're going over this week, it's oops, I just went back by accident. I apologize. So the overview is just what we call an accordion view here. It's just split up into to provide different sections of information on definitions that are relevant to this week's topic. So, and things that are relevant to Eric Fair's memoir, because it has to do with largely, if we think about Abu Ghraib as kind of this umbrella topic or umbrella situation that happened during the Iraq War, there's a lot of, if we were like to do a concept map of that, there's a lot of kind of lines that we would draw off of that to then talk about. So obviously there's not enough time to talk about everything. So it's kind of like, well, what are the most the most kind of related things, or the closest things that we might draw to that concept map, or like to the thing at the center. And so those things happen to be CIA's extraordinary rendition and the CIA rendition program, enhanced interrogation, which has to do with torture, and the definition of unlawful combatants, which has to do with Geneva Conventions, the United Nations, and international humanitarian law, and how we think about defining prisoners of war in a detention facility like a place at Abu Ghraib in Baghdad, or a detention facility in Fallujah, or Guantanamo Bay, or any CIA black site, or any detention facility. So that we hear about, talked about in Eric Fair's text. So I provide a video on just kind of what happened at, like what is Abu, if anybody's not familiar with Abu Ghraib, kind of what that was, or what happened. There's a video here for you on it. Of course, you're welcome to always do your own research if you're looking for more information. There's a lot of information out there on it. And then you can click on these links to get more information. This is research that I've done on extraordinary rendition, enhanced interrogation, and information about the definition of unlawful combatants. And unlawful combatants is instead of prisoners of war. So in terms of the resources, the readings and resources for this week. So as I've said, right, obviously this is our main text of the week. I give a reading recommendation. So I say, read chapters 1 through 5 within the first 2 to 3 days of the module. So if you already haven't gotten through that yet, or haven't started it yet, get through those first 5 chapters pretty quickly. The first 5 they go quite fast. 6 through 13 take a little bit longer, and that was my experience. Yours might be different. And I just repeat what I've already said. Read those first 5 chapters, complete the first discussion, then read the rest of the memoir, and then complete the final 2 assignments. You have some additional optional links here that give some information on what are called the torture architects from the Bush administration, some information on the torture memos. There's a lot of resources on what are called the torture memos. I don't go into a lot of information on them because I could build a whole class just on the torture memos. Like that's how big of a project, especially a digital project, they are. So I wanted to include them, but I didn't. I don't spend a lot of time talking about them. And then as usual, I've given some additional videos if you're interested in watching anything. I give information on the here's a video on extraordinary rendition, like what is extraordinary rendition, what happened, like what was going on. So this is about it's pretty interesting. It's one word for it. Based on a book that an investigative journalist wrote about the CIA's torture program, which is just another name for the rendition program. So it has like 3 names. If you're wondering what is a CIA black site, here's a video for you. I have a video on who is Dr. James Mitchell, who has since had his license revoked as a doctor. He was the former CIA contract psychologist. He's on that list of torture architects. So he was one of the people who's credited as coming up with the torture program and sold it or gave it to the CIA and worked with the CIA to create this torture program. So there's and I believe he was a professor for the University of South Florida, or works at the University of South Florida. And then I have a pretty basic video on what are the 4 Geneva Conventions, just, you know, for people who want a kind of foundational understanding of what are the 4 Geneva Conventions. The one that I'm most interested in and that we're most interested in for this class are the 3rd and the 4th ones, which have to do with prisoners of war and civilians. So those are the ones that are kind of most relevant to what we're talking about. But this goes through kind of all of them. So those videos are here for you. Otherwise, I'm always available by email or Canvas message, so feel free to reach out to me. And I'm going to stop sharing, and that's all I have. Otherwise, I hope everybody's doing well. Okay, thanks.